Hello, everybody. This is Becky here at Aunt Beck's Creations and just wrapping up to go play bridge. And that is in way too close, but I'm not sure if that's something I can fix right away. Let me check. Check. Okay. Nothing's been changed there. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do when we go to get started, I'm going to have to back out. Can anybody hear me? Can you hear me? Thank you, Heather. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create our own fabric, and I'm going to make another rice bag for myself with the fabric I'm making. That's why my piece of fabric is 20 by 30, but I'm going to show you a couple things. If you do not have a great big piece of fabric like I have, because I've been sewing since the age of 9 and I'll be 60 in March. So that tells you I have some fabric. Anyway, if you have a smaller piece, you can make like a cosmetic bag like this. This was made with a prompt game, just like we're going to do today. That's what this was made with. And yeah, I lined it with some kind of glittery dark blue and put a zipper in it and added my own handmade beaded charm. So this is what we're going to make. This is the type of fabric we're going to make. If you don't have a piece of white or muslin, you can use fabric that has a print on it. And what you can do is flip it over, do the prompts on the back. Then if you make a bag, it will already be lined. All you'd have to do is finish your seams a little, either with a serger, or you can put bias tape over your seams for a finished look. But if you're using a fabric that has a print on it, there's your lining. So that's what I was going to say. Any piece of fabric. The only thing I would suggest is do not pick out a heavy fabric. Do not try to do this on canvas. Do not try to do this on upholstery fabric. It's too thick to sew through by hand. And a lot of the additional stuff I've added to this bag was all done by hand. I'm trying to get the lighting. That's why you keep hearing me walk off to the corner. Oh, and I'm getting hot standing up talking. Got to lose the sweater. So that's what you can do with a smaller piece of fabric. Now, if you do a 20 by 30, like I'm going to do, you can make a Japanese rice bag. And everybody keeps saying, oh, I've made rice bags. You put rice in them and no, this is not it. And I learned about this from K3N Cloth Tales and Marion's World. And I have put links to their 2 videos because they each did their Japanese rice bags slightly different. Marion's World did more of a Victorian crazy quilt style, and K3N Cloth Tales did it in the more traditional Japanese way of doing it. And K3N also, I'm just going to call her Catherine because that's her name. It's Catherine. She also gives the Japanese name for it. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. If you go to her video, she'll pronounce it for you. And you can see the spelling of it yourself. So let me show you this bag. I just finished it. I'm going to raise you guys up a little, if I can remember how to do it, because you're going to need to see the whole table anyway. Scott said he fixed this for me, but I think I've about wore it out, and I probably should have an apron on. But what this is, it's 5 panels on the outside. So you have 4 sides and your bottom, and then you have 5 panels for your lining. You need tabs, which are 2 by 3 rectangles that you put at the top here to run your whatever you use up here. What Catherine used was she made the cording with the scraps of fabric. And then she put, I think, just one pocket in hers, and I put two in here. So there's just two little pockets where you could put maybe some embroidery floss and then put your needles on the other side. Or if you had a little flat pin cushion you wanted to slide in there. And it's all been lined. I did a little lazy daisy across the top of the lining. And then where I turned the outside over, it's got a straight stitch. And then I just sewed the two together with tiny, tiny little stitches all around the top. The inside is machine put together because I wanted to get this done by today. So, and on the outside, what you put your handles in from two different directions on opposing corners, which this is kind of sliding around here. But then you just pull them and it closes the bag. And if you leave them long like this, then you can carry your bag. But if you want it closed, you can tie it up. And I did do all the embroidery, and I showed this in a short. And I even embroidered the bottom. All of this that you see that's in color, that's all hand stitched. So this is what I'm going to create with the fabric that I make today. I'm going to set these aside so they don't get messy. And we'll get started on our prompts. What I have is just a plain piece of muslin. And it's 20 by 30-ish. I didn't iron it. I just pulled it out and then I just kind of tore it. So I have the prompt list is in here, cut into little pieces. I added a couple more that aren't on the list I posted. And you can use those prompts that I put on there in any way you want to. If you don't want to do my prompts, you can just pick the ones you want to do. I am going to use fabric paints. When it calls for paint, I have fabric paint brushes, which have a real stiff bristle. Lumiere paints are good on fabric. I have Tulip So Soft. I have Tulip Slick Riders. Those are fun to put just like lines on with. These are fabric markers here. And they're by Zeyar, Zeyar paint markers. They come in a cool box like this. Some of those haven't even been primed yet, but I have a bunch of the jacquard textile paints in here as well. So I'm going to just, whatever the prompts tell us to do, we're going to do it in a manner that will work on fabric. So I have those markers there, and I also have, I'm just showing you the supplies right now so that you can kind of know what I'm doing. This is a fabric medium, and Anita's, this is a Walmart brand, and this is Americana. This is fabric medium, and what this does is you mix it with regular acrylic paint, and it turns it into fabric paint. Okay. More So Soft. I love the So Soft because it stays soft. And then these were some pens I picked up off scrapbook.com that are for using on fabric. So these are some of the supplies I have that I don't use very often. So this is doing two things. I'm getting to make my fabric. Well, a bunch of different things. Make my fabric, use products I haven't used in a long time. Sharing how to do this with y'all and just have fun. So, hi Ray D, hi Dar, hi Nettie, hi Kimberly, hi Barbara Clark, hi Lynn Shepherd. Let's see, Melody, Pam, Heather, Dar, Joyce, Hi, Joyce. I think, is that everybody? Hi, Candy. Just running back. Hi, Mary. Deb. Leah. All right. All right. Let's play. Okay. Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me? It keeps telling me my chat is disconnected. Oh, I'm successfully connected. Oh my goodness. Hi, Marguerite. So let's do, I've got a piece of paper here to write the prompts down as we pull them. And when you're adding paint, only have a tiny little bit of paint. Don't try to put a ton of paint down. You will not be able to stitch through it. It's just a very light, you want just basically you're painting the surface. You don't want to get the fabric soaking wet. It makes it impossible to get your needle through when you're doing the hand stitch work. Just putting that out there so you know. So prompt number 1 says, hi, Deborah. Here's the number 1. Everybody's going, finally, she's getting to the prompts. Splatter with paint. Let's see. And of course, Becky did not bring. I might save these and then we'll put them in a jar to use another day. I did not bring a dish to mix with water. Let me grab a dish. A dish. I have dishes. Where are they? Here's one. And a fan brush. And that fan brush has seen better days. I'm just going to, let's see. Let's see if I can mix up some of this fabric paint with some water. I'm just going to, oh, not that. I'm trying to find a palette knife that I can mix this a little bit with, just a little bit of paint. And I've got my sprayer that's for ironing. That's probably way too much paint. Okay. I should probably wipe that off because it was really stuck on there to begin with. And that's probably enough. I'm going to move this over here a little bit. And I'm just stirring it together. And then I'm not going to waste the paint. I'm just going to squish it around. You just want enough of this to go here and there. There we go. So that you have a little bit of splattering everywhere. I think that's going to be enough. And we'll just splatter. I figure we'll do 8 to 10 prompts. I didn't get my apron on. I probably should have. Scott will come in and say, there's paint on your computer and your speaker and your top and everything. I want to make sure there's a little bit of splatter everywhere on here. I don't want to cover it, but I just want enough splatter that it can be kind of sneaking out a little bit. All right, good enough. All right, so that was prompt 1. Let me grab an apron real quick because I really don't want to mess this top up. Of course, this apron I thought was there is not there. Won't only take me a second. Let me grab one out of the drawer in here. It's my cat apron that I entered in the South Carolina State Fair, and I got a second place ribbon on it. Woohoo! The lady that judged it, she wrote me a note, and she says, your stitching needs to be better on your bias. And I'm like, okay. You're lucky I put bias tape on it. All right. Got my granny apron on. I'm safe. I'm dressing up. Woo! All right, prompt 2. Let's wiggle around in here. Pull out a prompt, and it says, what does it say? Black dots. Black dots. All right. My favorite thing to do. Now, if you've got a stencil that you want to add dots with, you can do that. I have a piece of dowel, and I'm just going to dip it in some black paint. I think I've got some black. I think the soft paint right here is black. Yes. Oh, it has been a while since we did this, hasn't it? Woo! That's quite the paint booger on that bottle. Hopefully it hasn't gotten all stiff inside. Oh, no, that's way too much. Oh, well. I'm using the product. That's what matters. All right. You don't want a ton of paint. So dip your dot maker in your paint and maybe go off one spot. And then what I'd like to do is stamp about 3 times in a row. And it gets lighter each time you stamp it down. And that adds a lot of interest. And we're just creating a base fabric, kind of like a masterboard, but you don't have to go crazy with the decorations right now, because after this, we'll add embroidery to it, or slow stitching, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you go all the way to your edge, because even though I'm not going to use all the way to the edge on this for those bags, those scraps can be used for something else. And if you don't want to do rows of circles or dots, you could do them in, a triangle. But since I started with rows of dots, I'm going to keep going. I find this really fun. I like to do this. And I keep in mind that I'm going to be doing several more prompts. So even if it's not totally covered, it's not going to matter, because you'll have more stuff going down. And if you get too heavy with it, then it takes forever to dry. And that delays the fun of the stitching. So keep in mind, you don't have to go heavy. You're just listening in today, Ray D? That's fine. I know a lot of people are at work right now. And I see Heather made it, so that means she didn't lose power. We had all that wind yesterday, and it just kept feeling like the roof was getting lifted off the house. It was something else. And I'm having to get used to having somebody else home during the day, since my son's job ended. And he's been applying to jobs online, and in between applying for jobs, he plays video games. So It's not as quiet. All right, I think I got some about everywhere, maybe some right here. Because I'm going to be cutting this into, I think I'm going to do mine slightly smaller than what I just made. So instead of 9-inch squares, I think I'm going to use 8-inch squares. So I'll have a bunch of this left over to make, I could make cards with it. I could piece it with something else and make a smaller bag or two. All right, I'm going to call that good enough. Wipe my stick off. All right, so we added black dots. If you want to add bigger dots, you can. That's up to you. Next prompt. I want to be off by 2:30. I think I got 2 there. What does this one say? Prompt 3. Sponge on paint. So pick a color, and then when you sponge your paint on, what I want you to do is make a little puddle of paint. Get your sponge covered in paint, but then dab it off to the side, and then dab it on here. Because if you go on it full hog with a fully loaded sponge, you're going to put too much paint down. You only want a tiny little bit left on the sponge. So prompt 3 was sponge on paint. So you can make like a row of dots with your sponge, or you can just, make a color space. There's so many ways to use this prompt. Let me grab a sponge. I forgot to do that. I was forgetting some things. Some things, if I draw them, I'll have to find them. But since I just moved this room, I kind of know where everything is for a change. Knock on wood. So let me see what else I have in the soft colors. Ooh, I have this pretty holiday green, and I have yellow. Since we've used a little purple on here, I'm going to use this yellow. Oh, this one's boogered up too. Hang on. All right. So here's my little piece of wax paper. Don't jump up here, Callie. So I got a blob of paint. So what I'm going to do is load my paint onto my sponge, but then come over here and tamp a bunch of it off. And then just tamp on, see here? So you're just stamping little bits of the color. And keep going until there's no more color, because then you'll get different values. You can go back into where you stamped off on and pick up just a little bit. And I'm telling you, even just this tiny bit of this yellow here and there, as you layer up, it gets more and more interesting. See, I had too much paint on there and there. So I'm adding just a tiny little bit of color here and there. Scott and I slipped off to Zesto's last night and got a soft ice cream. Actually, we got what they call a nut roll. It's vanilla ice cream dipped in chocolate, that hard shell like chocolate stuff. And then before it gets hard, they roll it in peanuts. It's really tasty. Because we hadn't gone out for something sweet, little decadent moment there in a while. So we took it. All right, so you can add as much or as little as you want. I laid this in some black paint or purple paint. I might get just a little bit more yellow. Hi, Sophia. That was rude, wasn't it? Remember, I'm trying to cover my whole great big piece to make sure there's a little bit of each prompt on it. All right, I'm going to call that good. What I did is I got a piece of wax paper and cut it into small sections. So as I finished a prompt, I could just throw the wax paper away so I wouldn't get paint all over the place. Are you a waist wiper or a butt wiper? Do you find yourself trying to wipe your hands on the front or on your back? Because when my sister and I were pouring ceramic pieces, we'd go out to lunch and we'd have muddy handprints on our rear ends and down our fronts, but we wore old clothes when we did that together. But since she's not doing pouring anymore, she's just doing throwing pottery. I don't get to play anymore. I guess she'd let me play if I went over there. Let's see. Next prompt, that was 3. I'm gonna get this over here. I am not, because these are fabric paints. I am using fabric paints. The paints I'm using are made for fabric. All right, add lace. So now when they're saying to add, the prompts are telling us add lace or add fabric or stuff, all I'm going to do right now is get some lace and I'm going to pin it where I want it to go. And I'm just going to leave it there, because what I'll do is I'll take it either to my sewing machine or by hand. After I sign off, I will stitch it to the fabric in some way. So all I'm going to do, I've got my little hedgehog here, pin cushion. That looks so dark. And I'm just going to get some lace and cut some pieces. Let's see if that's any better. Hedgehog. So we're going to add lace, was prompt 4. I think I'm just going to use some of that cheap lace that I just came across, that you get like a bunch of yardage. I don't know why I bought so much of this stuff over the years, but I did. I think I'm going to use this red. So I'm going to use red lace. It's a flat lace. And I'm just going to cut some irregular pieces. I'm just going to cut some pieces off this roll of lace, and then I'll pin it down. And it might be such a thing, I combine it with any fabric that we come up with. Let's see. All right. Now I'm just going to pin these down, put my fabric scissors back by the sewing machine so I don't do a no-no. And right now, I'm just going to lay them on here and see if I can get some here, there, and everywhere. There. And like say, if you got too much, the yellow's too strong, cover some of it with some red. Like right here, I might cover that with some red, like so. And the fact that this is going to get sewn on and cut through and this, that, and the other, by the time it's stitched into a bag or a box or whatever you decide to do with it, got some pins. Now I'm just going to pin these on here like so. Try not to poke through the paper I have down. Ooh, I'm getting stuff everywhere. Picked up some purple. Got some more. One pin will be enough to hold it, in place. Now, when you go to sew your fabric and lace on, you might want to switch these pins out for safety pins. That way you won't stab yourself over and over and over again if you use safety pins. Safety being the message. They're safety pins. Pins for your safety. No, you may not come up. She says, you watch me. Stay at your end. This has got wet paint on it. These cats are never happy. You got a bed over there in the window. She said, I gotta see what you're doing. Threw her back in her bed on the window. Oh, Pam, she'd make a real mess of it because she'd jump down on this floor we just put in, 5 years ago. All right. That's how I'm going to add the lace for right now. Oh, the box was for your neighbor. Oh, no. All right. Prompt 5. Add some hearts. Add some hearts. Add some hearts. You can draw some hearts on here. If you have rubber stamp of some hearts, you could stamp your hearts. You can do like I'm going to. And I had some hearts just sitting here looking at me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put some of them on there. Oh, and these have even been interfaced. Ooh la la. Let me see. These are the hearts that I cut to do the little heart banners, but I'm just going to use some of them. So like maybe I'll put one here. Now, when you put things on like this, if you want your fabric to go in all different directions, you need to put some hearts going up, some sideways, some, upside down, this, that, and the other. I'm going to put mine all kind of at an angle toward the top of the fabric because these are going to be the sides and bottom of my rice bag. All right. I was thinking I'd use one of each type of heart that's in my hand here. There's a little pink heart. And then there's a violet heart here. And I think that's all the different kinds I have. Oh, there's one more. Let's see. Let's put you here. And again, I'm just going to pin these on and then I'll stitch them on later. If you want to take your fabric paint and just paint a heart, what you can do, if you paint the hearts, when you do your stitching, you could stitch around your hearts for added interest. I'm going to be stitching, around these hearts too when I put them on here. Right now, I'm just going to pin it on. And once you get all your components sewn, all your added bits, you can keep going and add the rest of your embroidery if you want to. Or once you get these sewn, you can cut these out into the shapes you need for whatever project you want to do. And you can add additional things, but before you do that, add a little batting behind it, so the additional embroidery will be a little bit more dimensional. Hi, Eternity. Well, that's what I did on that rice bag. If you go and you watch K3N Cloth Tales video and watch Marion's World, you'll get two different perspectives on the rice bag if you want to make a rice bag. If you don't, I'm going to see how much fabric I have left after I cut the components out for the rice bags. Because what I'll do is I'll only use batting behind the four sides, maybe the bottom two. I think I did on the bottom two to give added interest to the embroidery. All right, so I used 6 hearts on that. I figured I might as well add that as a prompt so it's in there. Hi, Janet. We get a new mailman every other week. 6. All right. Number 6 says, add buttons. All right, this one I would save and use at the very end. Like I would add some buttons to an area that's not going to be, like if you're going to sew this on your sewing machine, I would put the buttons on after I know where my seams are going to be so that I don't sew through the buttons. Hi, Shannon. So I'm going to add buttons as number 6. But I'm going to hold. I always write hold till construction, just so I don't break my sewing machine. And another thing you can do once you know where your seams are going to be, you can also add beads. I do not have beads in here as a prompt, but you know, it's additional thing. If you wanted to just take notes of things that you could add afterwards, you just got to make sure you're not going to have beads or buttons or anything that's hard or real dimensional. Fabric, of course, will go under the sewing machine just fine, trims like that. But if it's hard like a button, you don't want to run over that with your sewing machine. Not good. All right. So 7, add fabric scraps or fabric clusters. So this is, that's number 7. Add scraps or clusters. So I have my little bag of stuff here that I've been saving. And what you can do is, we're building this as we go. What you can do is take some fabric. All right, this will work good. This is a Tim Holtz fabric, and I'm going to just snip it and tear it into strips. And I want that selvage to be separate. All right, so I just tore this. And what we can do, you can leave the threads hanging. It adds interest if you want to. This is a selvage. So I'm just going to leave that like that. Maybe add that on top of the lace. So I would pick that lace up. I mean the pin up from the lace. And then go through both of them. Maybe add another piece somewhere else here. I just do a little snip at the edge and then just pull it. Let's add this piece over here. You could add them on top of the hearts even if you wanted to. And by pinning these on, if you don't like where they are when you go to do your sewing, there's nothing saying you can't move them. Nothing. I'm not going to stand over you as the authority. Let's tuck this one up under the heart here. Or maybe just put that on top like that. And then I'll just stick this on here. Like so. I'll just do some snips and then tears. Ooh! Let's just stick that like this. And I'll put another pin in it. That says Tim Holtz. Maybe stick this under this one maybe a little bit. That says 022 Symphony. And what you guys can do, if you want to do a part 2 to this next week, we could do that. And I could cut my pieces apart and get you started. And all you would have to do between now and then is stitch down all the stuff you've pinned down. That does take some time. That's why I figured if I gave you the week, then you'd have a week to, get it all stitched down. You love these games? I love to do these games. I haven't done one of these in a long time. And I have these scraps sitting here working on putting together some scraps. And I said, you know what? We should do that. And then I could make my own bag, rice bag. And I am not looking whether these are right side up, upside down, none of that. I'm not there. So you use as many scraps as you want. I figure I'll just use this because I've already got a pretty good amount of color going on here. And I'm going to leave the edges all, rough. And when you do your stitches on, if you want to kind of match the colors that you've already stuck down here, like you could use pale pink on mine, yellow, purple. You could do different colored threads to hold these down. Or you could look into like just that heart and say, oh, I've got cream thread, green thread, pink thread, a darker pink, and then use that. You could even do fancy stitches all over the heart if you wanted to. Of course, we're not done with prompts yet, so who knows where this is going to take us. I think we need to add big old long strip down this side here so I can start building some stuff up on this other side. Yes to a part 2? Okay. Now the rice bags, they are labor intensive, but man, it came out good. I really like it. I can't wait to make one for myself. This was the rice bag was actually I call it a palette cleanser between projects I finished. I finished my very first project for this year off my list. And that was the cream corner to corner baby Afghan. And I'll share that on Friday in the Friday Sews. I'm hoping to have some other things finished for Friday Sews. I'm going to put this piece at the top. You can't see it. I'm just pinning it down at the top of the fabric. I'll do a kind of scan over the whole thing once we get to whatever prompt we get to. I said 8 to 10 prompts. We have more prompts than that. And that's another thing. I have the list of prompts already up on my community tab. If you don't like a prompt that I used here, you can pull one from there. Or if you want to add all of the prompts and throw everything at your piece, feel free. I'll let you. All right, next. So this is 8. So we'll probably have enough to do the 10, enough time. Let me see. Between the hearts and the fabric. Oh, add buttons, but I'm holding that until I'm ready to build my components because I want to know where my seam lines will fall for my bag project. Because I don't want to sew over buttons. So buttons, beads, sequins, all that stuff can be added once you get whatever you're going to make cut out. That's when you can add it. Add straight lines is prompt 8. So you can use a paintbrush and just paint some rough straight lines, or you can get a card and run it through paint and then have your lines that way. Or you can use something like the scribbles paints, like come in these, or the slick paints, and you can just draw lines. The only thing with this stuff is it really needs to be like your last thing you do because it goes on so thick, and you would have to find someplace to set this that it could stay flat. So I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to get a card, and I think I will use, let's see, I've already put purple and yellow. Oh, of course, my nose is going to run because I'm talking. Ugh, so gross. How about some no, not raw sienna. Yuck. Burnt sienna. Why did I buy those colors? Anyway, let's see. Oh. Hey, baby. This is a true gold, and it's a Lumiere jacquard. It's made to paint on silk, but it'll work on here too. Add straight lines. So I'll get another little piece of my wax paper, and I'm going to get one of my old like gift cards or Bondo spreaders, any of those things that you can make a line with. Well, it's going to be the Martha Stewart thingamabob like that. I don't know what this thing's called. I probably got it in a package of clearance stuff. That's how I get most of my supplies. Let's see if I can clean this thing off a little bit more, and I'll just scoop some of this out. Howard, you cannot come up. Sorry, buddy. I know Heather's kitty's been waiting to chit chat, but y'all are going to have to talk later. Yep, you could do that too if you don't have any of the, anything with a straight edge. I'm just going to put this on here. I could even use this, and it makes straight edges. Put that back in the water. All right. So I'm thinking put this in and maybe try to pull it down through like that. You got to hold the fabric to do this because it'll lift it. And remember what I said about not putting big old globs of paint because it's really hard to impossible to get your needle through the paints. And don't forget to go over some of your fabrics too, like start on the fabric and then come down. And then that way it looks like it was captured. You might want to avoid your pins. I do because they're my sewing pins. And you can make your lines go in different directions if you want to. some paint on this piece here. I'm going to put some this other way as well. Just cross my lines like that. So this is really mixed media, but it crosses over into my sewing, my love of sewing. So it kind of is like a twofer. I'm doing a twofer section. All right, I think that adds enough interest on it that I'm going to leave it at that. If I'd been thinking, I would have had a spare piece of fabric to wipe some things on, but that's okay. All right, next, we're going to do just 2 more. All right, so let's pick another one. We'll do 10. Thanks for the thumbs up, you guys. I might actually get this done in my hour time limit. That's good. Use your favorite color. Prompt 9 is use your favorite color. All right. So now I will have to use some textile medium because I love this desert turquoise. There's not a lot left in here, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some of the textile medium to this and turn it into textile paint. It won't take much either because there really isn't much left in here. And it's 2 parts paint to 1 part medium. So I'm guesstimating, and I'm just going to put a little dribble in there and hope it's enough. And then I'll shake it up. So you can add this any way you want to. Let's see, how do I want to add this? Maybe get something out of my household bin, household item bin, my bin o stuff. Let's see here. All right, I got a curler. How about a curler? And we'll just make some circles out of my favorite color. So you could go boop, boop, boop. This never ceases to amaze me how these things turn out. I really love doing these. Yes, I'm going over stuff. Look, I circled the word. Let's circle Tim Holtz. Got a little paint on my pen. I'll have to scrape that off. Element. I'm kind of overlapping things because I'm trying to tie everything together. If when you get to your stitching and you want to add more fabric, go for it, because that's what this is all about. Finding your own muse and letting her play. You just don't want to like coat it so heavy with stuff that you can't sew through it. By multiple stamps, you get like a shadow stamp here and there. That adds interest too. That's good enough. Then you could just use the rest of your paint like that. There we go. Good enough. Good enough for government work. I'll just wipe my curler off and throw it back in the bin. Hi, Sharon Marlowe. Long time no see. Hi, Kathy. This is but a mere background. We will add more. But before you try to stitch on anything, let every wet medium like chillax. I'm going to put this paint over in my fabric paint now because it is now fabric paint. Last prompt. Let's see what the last one says. This will be 10 prompts. If you want a list of all the prompts that I came up with and other people added to, they're on my community page. I can copy and paste them over into the description for anybody that's can't get to the community page if you want me to. All right. All right. It says stitch circles. So when you go to do your stitching, you could just stitch around your circles with a different color. Maybe red would be cool to stitch around the circles. Or you could, take, let me show you what I did on the bag. I used a couple different things. The lid off of Pringles and then the spool. And you could put that down and take your pencil, just draw around it, and then just stitch on your pencil line. And that way you could add more circles in different colors. So I've already got a bunch of stitching to do, but now I've got to stitch circles. And that's the last prompt. Stitch circles. All right. And I'll just put all of these prompts back in, and we could do this again in the future. So that's our prompts. Let me see. If I pull this down, you can see the top of the fabric. And then we'll go this way a little bit so you can see what I did on this edge. I just have one long strip of fabric here. If I want to, in these areas where not much got put, I could put some more lace or fabric. But I think this is about what you want to have on here before you do your stitching, because the stitching adds so much. There's the full bottom of it. So until next week, everybody's got stitching to do. Hi, Pixie. And Beth is here. I am not. I have never put a sealer on the fabric projects because I use the fabric paint or I use textile mediums. And the fabric, like here's the one we did last time. I've made a pencil bag out of it. This hasn't been sealed at all. And you can see this is what I mean. I added beads after I knew where this seam was going to be. I knew I could put some beads there. When you sew your fabric on, you can do running stitches. You could just do a star. If it's a tiny little piece like that, just put a little snowflake like stitch on it. Even some of the fabric caught up in the seam because that's where I cut. If you want to get your stencils out, if you don't feel like this is full enough for you, feel free to stencil and stamp with your fabric paints. Hi, Sarah Bear. Let me see if there's any other questions because I'm like brain dead standing up. So this will get made into a Japanese rice bag. I showed the one that I had made earlier. I don't want to touch it right now because I have paint on me and it's a gift. So it's over behind me. If you want to see what it looks like, I have shared pictures on Instagram and on the beginning of this video. That's what my piece is going to be. I will, because I'm making mine an inch smaller on each side, I will have extra fabric. And I was thinking if I have it just enough right, I might can show a small bag too, or we can use whatever's left as like patches for piecework, and we could pair this with a fabric from my stash. And like if I had some more of the Tim Holtz musical notes, that would be really cute as a liner for a small bag, or as part of a patchwork, like a 4 patch or a 9 patch, and then use whatever I have left of these little squares. I'm worried that Howard's going to jump up here and get paint on him. Turn it upside down? Sure. Let me, hang on. That might, hang on. It's wet, wet. The purple I splattered on at the beginning is still wet. So, and if you imagine, I'll get basically 6 of the blocks I need. So if I do 8-inch blocks instead of 9, that's 24 inches is all I'll use across here. So I'll still have a good bit left. I might drop another heart in, or 2 hearts over here, and stitch them down. Let me grab a couple more hearts so that I have something on this edge. Let's see. We'll just throw another yellow heart on here, and I'll pin that on here in a minute. And I want another pink one down here, like right there. Yeah. That way I'll have some hearts on the littler pieces. So I'll pin these on. And because I'm putting these down after the paint, they'll look different than the rest of the fabric. I think I just stuck my fingers in paint. Oh my goodness. Who'd have thought that? Well, I'll smooth all that when I go to sew it. You know I will. I need to let my fingers have a break. I went to sew last night and I felt a pain, and then I looked down and the end of my thumb had split, and I was like, okay, perhaps it's time to do something that doesn't require your hands to be getting dried out all the time. You can starch it if you want. What I might do after I get my, well, I might do it before. No, I'll do it. I'll do it after I get all my fabric stitched down. I might iron it really good so it's nice and smooth, and then maybe put a lightweight interfacing on the back of it before I go farther. It is quite thin now. You can put interfacing on the back of it. I would use interfacing before I would use liquid starch myself, but you do you. And I was thinking that would be good. I might put the interface, a lightweight interfacing, and then when I do my squares for the bag, I might put an additional bit of cotton batting on it just to give it that kind of tactile dimensional feel. If you have even felt, if you put a square of felt behind each of your components, it's an inch smaller than your block. So like if you cut an 8-inch block, cut felt squares at 7 inches square. So you have a half an inch all the way around it. I only did a 1/4 inch on the one I just made. And I agree with Catherine at K3N Cloth Tales. You actually would probably do better with, on this sort of project, to make a bag, give yourself a 1/2 inch seam instead of the 1/4. I'm used to working with 1/4 inch seams, but for anybody that struggles a little bit with motion, the repetitive stitch method, I've been stitching for so long that I can do more intricate things because I understand how my hands work with fabric. But not everybody has that. Not everybody has that muscle memory. So that'll be something we can go over next week. Um, I'm just thinking on the lace and the fabric, I might just do the running stitches, just do a running stitch up and down. Like on the lace, you could stitch just in the center and leave the edges loose. That's entirely up to you too. However you stitch your fabric on is up to you. The hearts, I might, depending on how my hands get to feeling, to start, I'm just going to go around them with a blanket stitch just to stitch them down. But then you could come about a 1/4 inch inside the heart, and you could go around again with maybe a lazy daisy. And then maybe you could do just a small back stitch heart in the very middle. So you'd have 3 rows of stitches, and you could do those in 3 different colors. Or if you wanted to just do all of your stitching in black and white, that could look cool too. Or we could pull out the black, maybe the turquoise, whatever thread you want to be seen on your hearts and stuff. I'm thinking on it, but I'm going to wait till all of this dries. And yeah, I've got, what I do is I buy bolts of what they call shirt tailor. It's not a real heavy duty, but it is made for making shirts. It's like for collar stands and collars and front plackets and stuff. But I use it on everything because I just love the weight of it. It's easy to sew through. Um, it's an iron-on. It's a fusible. And just a note, put something down on your ironing board, like even an old towel. Put it down on your ironing board before you go to iron the fabrics because of the paint. I don't want you to possibly transfer something to your ironing board. That's just another tip. When you're putting interfacing on, never put the iron directly to the interfacing. You should always have a damp, what do they call that? Ironing cloth. You put the fabric down, face down. You put the interfacing onto the back with the textured side of the interfacing to the back of the fabric. And then on top of that, just put a wrung out. I have an old t-shirt, works pressing cloth. That's what I'm thinking. And I use that to iron my interfacing down. That's the plans. Any questions? I just keep blathering. The only thing about the denim jeans, if you're going to do hand sewing, I would say that's going to wear you out quickly. Denim and canvas, it's a real workout. I don't like to do a lot of slow stitching on denim. I've done it, but man, it tires my hands quickly. Thanks, Deb. So I think that's all I have, unless you guys have another question or two. And I'll see you guys next week. Same time. Oh, they're thin, soft jeans. Okay. I was thinking jeans, like the ones that are like really heavy duty. Speaking of denim jeans, if you guys haven't caught Dale at Earndale's, she is doing a collage using different denims of her dog that passed. It's going to be beautiful. So I'll try to remember to put a link to that. She did part 2 today, where she showed she's figured out how to put his face together, and she makes them dimensional. And she's Canadian too. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll see you next week, if not sooner. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Bye.